In this lesson, we will be discussing the merge function. We are already familiar with C binding and R binding. When we have two datasets and they share certain attributes, we may want to merge them to make one dataset. When we do this, we can tell R how to handle missing data, whether to remove them or fill them in with an estimate. The merge function works on data frames. So first, I've created a couple data frames ahead of time. And you can see that there's some city information and some weather information. So I'm going to source this short file. So first, let's look at our city data and then our weather data. So there are a couple things to point out. First, what the heck is the I function? You can see it right here, and you may not have noticed it when we first started the lesson. Now, the I function will stop R from converting strings to factors, keeping them as strings. This is very similar to setting strings as factors to false. So we have two data sets, and some of the information lines up, such as city name. But there are different cities in both data sets. Let's discuss match first. This function takes a vector and compares it against another vector, returning all of the index numbers for where matches occur. Let's look at the city column of city and places column of weather. So if I pull out city, $city, give me all the city names, and weather, $city will give me the city names. So I can use the match function to see which ones match. So we're going to match the city cities to the weather cities. And we get index numbers. If we want to extract the values, we can subset. So I'm going to put this match function inside of some square brackets, and then we're going to have it return the weather city locations that match the city locations in the city dataset. Now, the city column could have other cities that don't match any of the weather locations, and those would also be excluded. There's also an operator that works just like the match function called %in. So it is a % sign followed by the word in and closed off with another % sign. So what this is telling us is that each observation in the city dataset is in the weather dataset. Now, if we do it the other way around, it's going to be a longer vector of booleans, and some of them are going to be false, because we know that the number of cities in the weather dataset is longer. Now, how can we merge these matching tags into one dataset? Let's try using the merge function. We're going to merge the city dataset with the weather dataset, and we're going to set by.x to equal city and by.y to also equal city. And there we go, a new dataset with combined cases. I told the data frame to merge the datasets by the column names that include the locations. It then removes the names which are not in both vectors. For example, city is the X data frame and weather is the Y data frame. So when I set the argument by.x, I'm telling it which variable to match with this variable from the Y data frame, which is weather. Now, what would happen if we didn't specify by.x and by.y? Well, it still works because we happen to have two columns that share the same name. Whenever a variable in one dataset matches a variable in another dataset, it automatically merges based on those two. Now let's change the city name in the weather dataset to be places. Let's rerun this code. Now what do you think will happen when I try to merge the two datasets without specifying which columns? At this point, they don't share any of the column names. It behaves by making all possible combinations of the city data with the weather data. So the city data contains 5 rows, while the weather data contains 8. And when we merge the two without specifying by X and by Y, when they don't share column names, it creates a dataset with 40 rows. In this lesson, we talked about how to merge datasets, and you can see that it's kind of tricky. But some very useful points that came from this lesson are the in operator and the matching function.